Right, hello guys, a little bit of a different show for you today. So we've obviously been doing a load of experimenting in the troop formation room and a couple of things have come to light. So we felt as though it was really important and wanted to share it with you guys. So with me today I've got Spin and the Megalodon to go over some of their findings with you. And I will hand you over to Spin now.
Hi, I'm Spin. I'm actually consider myself a veteran DoD player. Been around since Demon Gear was top notch. And one of my recent discoveries was when I noticed that damage reductions and damage stats kind of run the show a little bit more than some of your other stats, which is self-explanatory. I've noticed that lower tier gears have actually given you a lot of buffs on your lower stats, and unfortunately, I have been doing better than with my Pursuer gear, which, not a lot of people necessarily want to hear, especially after spending all of that money. But I think that I have definitely found a nice defense for it, especially with the mechanic change in the game. We've done loads of testing, and we've figured out that, again, damage stats hurt if they're high enough. Doesn't matter what your base or top tier stats are. If you have somebody on your damages, if your damage is like 60, 70% higher than somebody's damage reduction, you're definitely going to cause a hell of an impact. And it's also something that I've noticed during UAC as well, which actually is where my theory initially came from, because with the UAC buffs that you receive, it obviously is supposed to give you an edge towards your opponent, depending on your position. And again, I was winning, and some of the only differences was my damage, my bottom stat. So I brought a lot of attention to that. And after siphoning through all of the gears, I realized that, low tiers give you loads of reductions, loads of damage stats. But unfortunately, if you don't also have the airship to back it up, theory, we call it a work in progress. Is kind of null and void. So if you don't necessarily have the airship to back up this kind of gear setup that we have going, then you will see negative effects. But we have tested it in many different areas. I myself, my main is P35. I have access to other accounts. We've tested the theories and whatnot on farms, and with small tier troops, we have done encampment battles to try to even the playing field, which we'll get to. I know you have that in the role. That I have actually, I'll foreshadow it a little bit, but I have actually never seen a report like this in all of my days of DOG, so it kind of blew my mind. I can't actually wait until that comes up in the video.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it? So when you say about the airship, what sort of level airship do you think that you're going to be needing at this point to make this sort of gear setup work for you?
So I would say at least prominently a level 5 to 6. You have to have those damages in your airship prime. Those are obviously the ones that I would suggest putting your level 5 and 6 airship intensity gears on. If you're attacking, you want to lean more towards your distance damage, seeing as distance marches seems to be prime in this day and age of GOG. Or whatever, if you attack with cavalry, I'd put it in your cavalry, So it's based off of what you feel your highest in.
Yep.
Damages seem to go up in a very balanced way, except for the catacomb buffs that you get. If you have 2 catacomb buffs on and you're missing 2 of them, obviously you're going to see a difference in an unbalance. But normally, when your airship goes up and you level up, you try to keep your 4 cores the same level. That way your damage and damage reductions kind of stay at the same balance. Prime, I would say this setup would probably work best if you the higher your airship is, the higher your damages are and damage reductions are going to be.
Yeah.
And again, at the cost of what your top stats and your base stats, which again, unfortunately, seem to not necessarily run a huge part of the report as much as it used to. Guards are very powerful these days. I don't necessarily want to say overpowered because, again, depending on what guards you have, there is an in. There is a defense, there is a countermeasure to the marches right now. I know it might not seem like it, but unfortunately everybody seems to be following each other. Oh, this march seems to work, and nobody kind of wants to go out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, nobody's experimenting. Which is why obviously we put the formation group together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the formation group has been amazing, I might like to add, because, you see a lot of different perspectives many different kingdoms, and you get people, instead of doing it one blood wars here, blood wars there, you can, oh, I tried this, I tried that, and then you have 6 different people who,
Yeah, there's been loads of people in there, all running different experiments. Meg, so you're running the same gear and you're a C40. Is this working for you as a C40? You having better results?
I am actually having slightly better results than my Pursuer gear. Pursuer gear is all +5 with the ring at +6. When Spin had came to me the other day and was telling me about his theory on the damage, I was actually really curious, and I was glad that he actually came to me, and I started doing the testing as well with his theory, and I actually had a lot of good moments in the Spirit Mines and in Musketeer Fort. Mostly people, I was basically singling out people that looked like they would have been stronger than me. And
yeah, there was a couple of 1.5 billion people that you had a couple of hits on, wasn't there?
There was a few that probably I would normally kind of stay away from just because of the older kingdoms and the power buff. It was just not something I wanted to really find myself going against, trying to beat them and having them come look for me. But the results changing everything over, and you'll see it in the videos that I sent, with going to the Retribution gear with Spin setup. We also did the Duelist cap and Noble armor from the Lieutenant gear, which is the very lowest equipment that you could actually put on.
So we're going to be having like tiny farms with good airships and terrible gear actually pulling off really nice stats.
It's very possible with the setup that Spin had found. But I mean, I started doing the testing, and me and Spin were going back and forth with what we found, and it was just really amazing stuff.
Yeah, it literally blew my mind. Some of those videos are just absolutely insane.
Exactly, and this is why we, wanted to, reach out to you so we could actually put it out there for everybody to see. And I mean, this is really huge for your free-to-play players that don't have all the Pursuer gear, have, minimum stats. This is a way for them to kind of be more, be more in the mix.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is huge because, let's face it, with all these new updates, I think everybody's assumed that Guns of Glory has gone way towards like the pay-to-play, but this kind of proves that it hasn't. If it's been done on purpose, because you never know, they might end up changing the game mechanics by the time this goes out. But if this is what it is,
definitely possible.
It does actually give those sort of like low stats a bit more of a chance, and actually not have to spend as much money, especially when you're trying to get the Pursuer and stuff. I mean, I know they've made it easier now with the thralls, but it's still a pain in the ass. It's very tempting just to go and like buy those balls or just buy the gear.
I'm not happy with how I had to obtain my sword.
Not many people were. It took me quite a while before I got the sword, and I was spending as well.
Such a headache. It was absolutely horrific. Right, let's have a look at some of these videos. We obviously want to give everybody an idea of exactly how much experimentation has been done. Like, there's no point us just showing you one video and you just taking it on that sort of case in point. So with Meg and Spin's help, we've put together all the things that we thought were really, really important, just to try and give you guys an idea. Like, obviously go out and do your own experiments as well. Don't just rely on this information. But we felt as though we needed to kind of put this out and have everybody know about it, because it was just such a sort of like massive thing.
Agreed, 100%. There was also another setup where I didn't use the Noble armor, and I went and was it the Retribution, the chest piece,
because instead of giving you the individual reductions, the Retribution chest piece gives you army reduction compared to infantry distance and cavalry damage reductions.
So almost there's like individual benefits that you used to get from having all of one type of gear. It like pretty much doesn't really mean anything now.
Well, the thing is, it really sucks because like you do take a hell of a hit from army damage and army damage received from Pursuer into this new set, which is actually 108% from your army damage and army damage received. But I still think, in my personal opinion, that if you have your glory banner set up and you have your Airship Prime, and you're using your Catacombs buff, and you can trail them in army damage by 30%. I mean,
yeah, which is usually what I want to say. When I was doing it, my army damage had dropped down to 129,
which still isn't that bad comparing the maximum to the 152%.
Exactly, and of course, with the being the king buff, you get the extra 10%, I believe. So it's a max of like 161, but that's not for everybody. It's very limited people. But yeah, mostly everybody's 149 or 151, and with this setup, you'll be dropped down to, I believe, for me it was 129.
Which is terrifying when you first see that, right?
Yes. Especially when you first go to the battle report, and the very last number of when you see is the army damage, and then it's just like, oh god, what did I just do? And then when you scroll down a little bit more, and then you get into the actual troop damage part, and you see that's exactly the basis of the whole theory, was that maximizing the damage versus another opponent's damage reduction, and that's what Spin had found as what was working, and that's what he was testing. That's what I was testing after talking to him, and amazingly enough, it's 100% correct. People will be able to do this regardless of who they are.
Which is amazing. It kind of opens up new avenues. I think everybody thought that the game was kind of broken, and I mean, it still might be, but this definitely adds the balance that we've all sort of been looking for.
Exactly.
I would assume it caused a lot of confusion as well, as somebody with probably 1,000 less stats than you is slaughtering you.
Yeah.
No comment.
I mean, we did see, obviously you guys were testing, so you were hitting people, and we did see a few sort of comments come up, didn't we? And it potentially could have been referring to you guys, because you were just running around in your duelist and your rat gear.
Well, I feel like it would cause a lot of mass confusion, considering the fact that a lot of people these days only pay attention to the top of their battle reports, which is not necessarily what you should be doing.
Yeah, well, I think, like, really, our heads have all been turned in the wrong direction, because we've all been looking at guards to find this sort of, like, secret answer, and yes, of course, they've got something to do with it, because you're stacking all your damage stats on top, and if you do your guards correctly, you can probably do that. Get some lovely results out of that as well.
Definitely.
So
it also ties into a screenshot that me and Joe, we had to find, like it was buried by Blackbeard, and it was actually an explanation of how damages and damage reductions work against each other. And with the mechanic changes, I still believe that the bottom damage and damage reductions are actually working the same way as they were before the guard update.
It was an article from like 2018, wasn't it?
2018,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, technically although it appears as though everything's kind of changed, if those mechanics are still working the same, then other mechanics probably are as well. We just haven't found it yet.
Well, there's been speculation, and I completely label this as speculation, that your defense is not active while you are attacking. That cannot be confirmed or denied.
Right.
But there has to be something along those lines, considering the fact that your damage buffs are only active while you are attacking, and your damage reductions are active while you are being hit. That was confirmed per the 2018 post, in which I actually still believe is correct. So with that being said, that ties also into kind of another explanation of how guards work, kind of like how damage reduction guards would be used as defense, whereas damage buff guards would be used as damage. When you look through your skills, your guard skills, on the battle details part of a report, it'll show you the guards. If you click on your individual guard, it'll show you your guards and the skills, and it'll show you what skills were activated and how many times they were activated and how many kills they accumulated. Now, damage and damage reduction buffs on guards only activate once. They only need to be activated once because the buff lasts for all the rounds of the match. That affects stats completely. There is no chance for that. But just because your damage reduction skill was activated does not mean it is being used from an attack position. So on the report, it will be active. It will give you your damage reduction. But because you were attacking, it's null and void.
Oh, that's quite an interesting point. Yeah, I mean, that does make sense, but that is a really, interesting point. Definitely.
That one's going to take a little more time to tune in for the next video.
Yeah, a little bit more testing to be done. Definitely. But I mean, you guys, tried like you weren't just testing in Fort, there was other testing that took place as well. I know, Spin, obviously you did some testing with Wolf as well.
Yeah, the PVE testing didn't go so well. PVE seems to be the only thing that incorporates your stats to be of more importance. But also, again, because your damage reduction stats aren't necessarily being utilized, only your damage stats are being utilized when hitting the wolf. I think that the drop in army damage does severely hurt the PVE portion.
Yeah, I do agree with that, because I also ran the test with the setup, and I did have a lower damage against the wolf and the setup that we were testing, as opposed to using the pursuer gear by about 2 million.
Wow.
What's bad though is with the retribution, and I'm gonna label this set as the reducer set.
Well, let's give it a name.
Yes.
So I'm just calling it the reducer set. But while using this reducer set on Wolf, I found it interesting that I only did 3 to 4 million less damage, and I was still doing the same, if not more damage than people who had the stats in which I got brought down to.
Yeah, no, it is really interesting.
And my
it's
testing,
not necessarily like it's not like eons away from my pursuer. It's actually a lot closer than I thought. But the consistency, the conclusion was that pursuer for PVE is definitely better than reducer gear.
Yeah, and I mean, I always suspect. Well, I always suspected. I have suspected that PVE was the same as before for quite a while now, so that's good to sort of like have that sort of confirmation. Meg, what were you about to say?
Well, I was just going to confirm for Spin that his was only a few million for his entire set of hits against the wolf. My difference was in the actual one hit. So his was 3 to 4 million with all 10 hits, but the difference for me from the reducer gear to the pursuer gear was actually 2 million on my first hit.
Oh no, I was actually meaning like mine was 3 to 4 million per hit difference.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant it was only a 3 to 4 million difference at the end. I'm sorry, that was my fault.
It was a 3 to 4 mil difference, which was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like, I only hit 2 or 3 mil damage.
In the lower gear.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember what exactly my stat line is for Wolf.
I believe I hit 12.5 or 12.7 mil in the first hit with reducer gear. I know there was a 12.1 mil hit too, but that was also without gems. I did a lot of testing with the beast. I also dismantled all of my guard weapons and only enhanced my troop stats ones and my distance one, and it seemed to also give me a better score.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, since I'm actually looking at the screenshot, it was a difference of 20 million.
Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was off by a decimal point. So it was
Do you think that's because your pursuer's like level 6, level 7 though?
His pursuer is definitely beefing compared to mine.
Well, let's not get crazy with the 6 and 7s. It's mostly 5 with 1 6.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Overestimated.
Just a tad.
Just a little bit. It's because you're so good. So obviously, Meg, you wanted to make really sure that everything was definitely working, so you took your theory out into Blood Wars as well.
Yeah, I do feel bad because I don't usually play the aggressor in hitting castles in Blood War.
Yeah, and obviously, thanks to that alliance as well for
yes.
Can you remember?
Kingdom 70.
Yeah.
I don't remember the alliance name. I believe it was a French alliance, but they were from Kingdom 70, and I might have tormented them a little bit, and I do apologize for that.
But yeah, running experiments, it was necessary at the time.
I did make sure that they knew what I was doing. I kept on changing my name to make sure that, it wasn't anything personal.
Yeah.
But I did, in the end, sit in front of their safe zone, asking them to rally me and hit me and all this other stuff. But I did apologize in the end.
You did, and one of our players, bless him, because obviously it was such big news and we didn't want people to know until we knew for sure. So they kept trying to rein you. You kept trying to send them back.
And of course, I was showing my gear at the time, and I was getting questions on what exactly I was doing. It's just, don't worry about it. I got this. But yeah, it turned out that I didn't actually video many of the stuff in the beginning of the castle hits, but there are the screenshots from, I believe I had either 3 or 4 castle hits during Blood War where I was using the reducer gear.
Yeah. And I think you won like all of those, didn't you?
I did. And then I got a little curious and decided to try and solo hit the Necropolis as they were mega garrisoning. Before I noticed that did not go so well. I did a distance hit and I did a cav hit and it did not go so well. But I noticed that there was a mega rally that someone else had set up in our alliance. So I was just kind of speed hitting solo shots before the mega rally hit just to see what would happen if I could take it beforehand. But again, I don't know how many troops were in there. It was definitely over 2 million. But yeah, it didn't go so well. Everything else went well except for that.
Except for that. But then, you know,
except for that.
Maybe if you'd have done a rally and everybody had on all this special gear plus duelist boots and a ring, could be a different story. Something worth testing out.
Definitely something worth testing out.
Definitely.
Because now we're talking about a full rally with the damage buff as opposed to the stat buff.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, everybody's pretty much just kind of rallying blind at the moment and hoping that the T12 distance troops are going to sort of save everybody else.
Yeah. Spin, what do you think? Did we lose them?
No, I'm here.
No.
So I'm not necessarily sure how that would go. It's definitely something to test out. Also considering the fact that they fixed mega garrisons and mega rallies.
Yeah.
It appears so, yeah.
Patched it, yeah.
So I think that them fixing that would probably work in this theory's favor.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, though, I think it would, in my personal opinion, I think that it would work better as a mega garrison than it were a mega rally.
Okay.
Because of the damage.
Yeah, because
of the damage reductions.
Right.
And the only reason I say that is because recently I will shout out one of the most beautiful battles that I have ever witnessed in GOG history.
Seriously.
Girl is No One and Esker.
Yeah, everybody was watching.
That was a holy battle.
Yeah. The beautiful part, we didn't have to pay to watch it.
Yeah.
It was
They're going to have to start getting pay-per-view on that shit. They'll be raking the money.
Exactly.
After this video comes out, next thing you know, GOG will have pay-per-view battles.
I'm sorry!
Oh, don't worry. We fully figure out that they're going to nerf the gear as soon as this video posts anyways.
Yeah, well, we hope that they don't, and that we hope that this isn't a loophole, and that it is actually like a legit solution to add in a bit of balance back into the game.
Yes, Spin's going to take the blame for it.
Oh yeah, good old Spin.
Don't blame me.
But back to why I would theorize that it would work better as a mega garrison, because not too many people have the damage reductions, but I've also noticed that monsters like Esker, their damage buffs are pretty much what yours was when you had the gear on.
Exactly. So I'm sure he definitely has level 7, level 8 gear attached to his airship.
Oh, yeah. I'm also interested in how the theory would work if Esker used the setup, because without it, I think Esker's damage stats would hit just under 400. And I mean, think about that for a second. Damage stats at 400, whatever your guards are giving you, a critical hit on that, and we've already proved you can tackle people 6, 7, 8, 900 fucking stats above you.
Yeah, I mean, the results are absolutely insane. Like, genuinely, watching some of those videos, my mouth dropped. It's just mind-blowing.
I have to find more defense wins and screenshots. Unfortunately, the defensive ones that I got were very inconclusive, considering that the guards that I was attacked with were not max. Their skills weren't leveled up that high. It was clear that the only reason that I won was because of guards.
Yeah.
So there definitely has to be a lot more defensive testing. But again, people sending the wrong guards and equalized marches, and what's left is like 86%, 92%, and I'm eating marches the way a C40 would, and
Right.
And my march capacity is only like 412K with this gear on. So.
We did notice.
That's probably going to be.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, that was going to be something that people will definitely notice right away, especially going from the Pursuer gear to that gear, was unfortunately you do take the hit in the March cap.
Right in the March cap.
Well, Pursuer, yeah, right. The March cap. No, I can't send as many troops to their doom as I could before.
Yeah, I know, right? Everybody should be sending smaller marches.
Another thing that I've noticed though is, especially when it comes to testing, is it's very useful to test with 1,000 troop marches, one type or two type mix, however you want. Only because it's easier to see the inconsistencies in lower marches.
Yeah. I was when I was testing with farms, I was using 1,000 troop marches. It's easier to kind of like work out where the anomalies are and things like that, I think, when you're just using a nice round number.
I've had this theory for a long time, and I don't know, I just kept trying it, and it finally, the mechanics changed, I guess, to its favor. More testing obviously definitely has to be done.
Always, yeah.
It just, my results again were weird because PvP wise, my reducer gear was holding up to pursuers.
Yeah.
Which was kind of one of the concerns that we had when we found it, was the simple fact that this is probably not going to be as positive as it is negative.
I didn't want to be right.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people have spent a lot of money getting this gear, and I'm pretty, they're going to be pissed off. There's no two ways about it. They're going to be pissed off.
Myself included.
But people are striking because presumably they want this free play game, and their spenders striking as well. So, even though people are going to be pissed off, this is quite a positive thing, I think, in a roundabout kind of way.
Yes, I also agree to that.
It gives people the ability to spend less, even the spenders, because people are still growing from the bottom up. I think this game at the moment has come very tailored towards people that are just starting to play rather than people that have been playing for a really long time, and this whole guard system kind of fits in with that as well. And I know, like, obviously when we were doing our testing and stuff, and you guys noticed it as well, but actually using those green and blue guards with your golds and your purples have added benefits as well, whereas everybody's been overlooking them because it's what we're used to. But if you're just starting to play and you're only pulling green and blue guards, then you're going to make do with what you've got. You might have one or two golds. So I think that straight away you're learning with the game, whereas we are unlearning and then relearning something, but also with the old mechanics in there as well. So obviously I was saying about the green and blue guards, and this is not a fact yet. We're still sort of toying around with this. But
yes, we are.
I find it interesting with Madame Lanoy the most.
Yeah, definitely Lanoy.
So here's the thing. So far the only thing I have is one hit. It's a very memorable hit. I didn't take screenshots. I didn't think of anything of it. I just fucking auto-selected guards, and, I was on a farm, had a gold guard, and then Madame Lanoy was maxed, and I didn't set an airship, and Madame Lanoy gives you a dodge trigger as well as a critical chance trigger. And I wiped 2 million troops, and I lost, 75k. And it was a distance march, too, so...
Yeah.
It could have had something to do with their guards on their wall, don't get me wrong. But again, if it's utilized correctly, don't get me wrong, a lot of this game, unfortunately, is chance now.
Yeah, it is.
2 reports are not going to be the same, as soon as you bring critical hit chance into it, you attack, that critical hit chance doesn't activate, then you're screwed. But if you attack again and then all of a sudden the critical chance activates, that's, when you win, which is why it's making testing very hard as well.
Yeah. But I mean,
because it is like a lottery.
The war books, for example, they've always worked that way. So obviously you have got some war books that give you what I call cert stats. So you know that you're going to get that stat is a definite. But a lot of them are obviously depending on variables that you can't predict. So like your opponent's damage and things like that. So potentially with this new sort of gear setup that you guys have kind of found, if you were to tailor the war books onto those damage stats, I don't know all of the war books off by heart. I wish I did. That would be pretty clever, but I don't. But, if you were to stack them up on those ones, then it's only going to make that gear work better, surely.
I know a lot of people are having trouble with war books right now. Me, I've always tried to be a trap account. Tell you something, it is so hard after this guard update. I don't recommend trying to be a trap right now. I'll tell you that. No. I don't recommend I don't recommend having 15 million troops. I don't recommend that. But I've always put my war books on my T2 infantry because before the guard update, I was just absorbing marches. And I mean, I think the highest hit that I took before the guard update, it was C40s hitting me, 2,000 stats above me. I was losing maybe 1.2, 2.3 million troops. And, they're like, haha, I killed 2.3 million troops. But it's like, you killed 2.3 million T2 infantry.
Yeah, I've
So,
still got 12 million troops in here. Those good old meat shields.
And you lost all your T12. Haha.
Yeah, so it's like, it's an 8 million power loss compared to a 75 million power loss,
Yeah.
Or these days, the power loss is crazy. That's why they don't tell you in the report anymore.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yes.
They don't want you to know.
Find out after the fact.
Yeah, they want you to find out from the power loss come up on your screen.
Is there anything
How many
else?
zeros did that number have?
Yeah.
I think there's obviously going to be haters. There's going to be people that are saying, "Oh, you're crazy, low tier gear." Da 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 da.
Well, we've done quite extensive testing. Like, as
Sure.
I said at the beginning of the video, we wouldn't have actually gone ahead with this unless we were certain. And I think it's fair to say at this point that we're pretty certain.
Yeah, it's all situational as well. This gear is not guaranteed to win. I will say that right now.
No, and obviously March
yeah.
cap has like a huge part to play.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody's got a 300k bigger March cap than you, you're probably not going to beat them, regardless as to what
Right.
gear you've got on.
Yes.
And they've made
But
March cap really important at the moment as well. Like, everything is tailored towards it, from the airship to the guards.
Do testing, give feedback. Let us know what your results are.
Yeah, definitely.
And in this gaming community, I feel as if it's not necessarily like we should be less competitive against each other, because competitiveness is kind of the whole part of the game.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
But I think that we should kind of like be more of a unit as a game and as a whole, Like, obviously KBK comes, the point of it is to try to take over your other kingdoms. Unfortunately, it's the place where people spend the most. It's where the strike is trying to cut down the losses for KVK and whatnot, and hopefully have the developers look more into the gamer and consumer's perspective as opposed to what rakes in money.
Well, yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, they want people to be playing the game. So listening to the way that the mechanics are preferred, with the stat use and all of that sort of stuff. It's not their best move to just make it obsolete. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're always going to be generating money because there's always people that are going to start playing that don't have that experience from before. But, you've got hundreds of thousands of people in there that have been playing it for a long time, and that's a lot of money to lose.
Yep. And, well, at the same time, the devs also own more than just Guns of Glory.
Yeah.
So, like, test it out, share, again, there's not one thing to it. There's countermeasures to marches, so helping each other out won't necessarily hurt yourself, during KBK. Again, there's counters to everything. You just got to pay attention. People aren't, you see it all the time, people not paying attention. You ask a lot of obvious questions, which, we shouldn't. Again, there's new players, you got to be patient with it, and unfortunately, we were at the time where even some of the veteran GOG players, they're getting asked questions and they're like, I don't even know it anymore.
Yeah, well, I think, we've all been looking in the wrong direction, haven't we? We've all been looking at guards, and this has been sat under our noses possibly the whole time,
To be fair, even if you're an older player at this point in time with all the changes in the system,
you're a new
everybody's
player
now.
It's pretty much a new game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
yeah, definitely.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it's broken. I understand a lot of people are saying that it's broken. There's going to be bugs. I'm not defending GOG. Quite honestly, I'm kind of sickened by some of the stuff that happens in GOG. But ultimately, we all play for a reason. And
we keep playing as well,
Yeah, we do keep playing. As much as people complain about it, they're like, oh, it's like an addiction.
Yeah.
I feel like the social aspect most of all, and being able to talk about with people around the world, and again, the competitiveness.
Yeah, definitely.
But
shout out to SwiftKey.
Yeah, shout out to SwiftKey, because seriously, oh my god, I can talk to so many people with such a bad translator now. 100%. Well, it's been great having you guys, and thank you for sharing everything that you found. Really, really appreciate it. And obviously, we'll carry on testing, and any new information that we find, we can always do it in another video.
Of course. Hopefully we can get another guard video in with those low tier guards. That's a very interesting point that we would like to do a lot of testing in.
Yeah, definitely, with the greens and blues. And if any of you guys do some testing with the greens and blues, let us know how it goes. And obviously
Yeah,
add
definitely
yourselves
comment
into the
as
troop
well.
formation room as well, because this is kind of like, although Spin's been working on this for like a long time, we all found each other kind of in there. Well, Meg's in my kingdom, but you know, we found each other in there. We've been running tests together, completely from different kingdoms, you know, but if we come up against each other, we're not gonna not fight each other. We're all testing together, so you know, it's all very amicable. We're still going to play the game. So you guys
Of course.
hop in and...
If you guys want to suggest anything to the devs, guys, we need artillery guards in the mist somewhere.
Yeah, we need to find out what's going on with artillery.
guards.
I have a
Yes,
I have a theory with artillery, but I'm still working on that one at the moment.
We'll save it for the next video.
Yeah,
Bring in
definitely.
the artillery guards.
Yeah. It's been great. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, thank you
Thanks,
for having
Creed.
me.
Take it easy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that there's been a couple of revelations in here, or at least a few things that maybe you hadn't considered that you can go and play around with now. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. Coming up this week, we've got some money giveaways courtesy of Don from Gunmuse and RogersRaiders.com. He's very kindly given us some vouchers to give away for the game, so keep in tune for that, and I will update with another video very, very soon. Thank you very much, and as always, take care.